Hey everyone, how are all of you doing today? Welcome back. Oh, and I can hear myself apparently. I have a window open somewhere. There it is. Oh, it is this one. There we go. Hey everybody, of course, it wouldn't be WrestleSode if there wasn't a mistake right off the beginning to start off season 3. I hope you've all been really well. I've missed all of you. It's been almost 2 months. It's been like a month and a half, something like that, since we've all got to hang out and talk wrestling and have some interviews, and I've just missed it. So I hope you've all been very well. We are trying something a little bit new this season. As you can see, there's been a couple of different changes. In fact, let me just make one of them. We have a new streaming software that I'm using. And so I hope that we don't make a whole bunch of mistakes with it, but that should be totally fine. So yeah, I'm already going off the rails here. A big thank you first up to the Canadian Wrestling Archive. As you guys know, they've been a huge supporter and helper of WrestleSode now, especially during season 2 and now moving into season 3. We are live on both Twitch and on YouTube. Over at the Canadian Wrestling Archive. So that should be pretty awesome. It's really great to see everybody jumping in and having a great time. It's really great to see some of these names. Hey, everybody. So we're going to get into this immediately. I don't want to delay this. I've been super excited to have an interview and chat with somebody, and I'm so excited for today's interview. We are chatting with the NEW champion, Evan Rivers, which I'm like so excited for this one. Let me just tell you. First up, I didn't realize that he was a Pokemon card collector, and I just found that out before we started this. So I feel like there's going to be some questions about card collecting probably that's going to happen here today. Bring on the champ. That's right. And he's also got his beautiful championship belt behind him. I'm about to bring him in. If he gives me the thumbs up that he's good to go. Perfect. All right, let's bring him on in. Evan Rivers, how are you, buddy?
Anthony, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. This new software, that made that so much more smooth than the old one. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to call you. And it's so great. First up, how have you been? How is the transition there in Vancouver to winter, which I know is probably just some cold rain for a little bit?
Yeah, it's been busy. It's been freezing cold here for as far as Vancouver standards go. It's nothing like the prairies, but when you're not climatized to that minus 30-degree weather anymore, it's a little bit chillier than you'd expect.
I totally understand. I lived in Vancouver for 5 years, and I was like, my cold tolerance totally dropped entirely. I'm just like, no, it's fine. It's just raining outside. But first up, thank you so much for joining me here today. Beautiful belt, by the way, over here, this NEW championship. I was so fortunate and lucky to be at the show, the NEW Baseball show, where you won that championship. And I got to see all of that, seeing that 8-man. It was like a 4v4, but it was kind of like an 8-man still. It was so much fun. And then watching you finally take down Travis Williams there at the end to win that belt. How does that make you feel, man? How does it feel to be the champ?
Honestly, man, I'm still getting used to it. Earlier on in my career, when I was just getting started, I didn't think I was going to be at this position so quickly. But the hard work has definitely got me ready to be at this point. But to say I'm not excited about it, I'd be lying to you. But to be on this level and be able to start getting the matches that I'm starting to get and be on the platforms and have the trust and of the promoters, and yeah, man, the hard work's just paying off. So I'm
Absolutely
elated, to say the least.
I was lucky enough, I'm just going to put this out there, a little behind the scenes thing, to take a look at your wrestling resume, which is amazing that I got to see this to begin with. You first started off in August of 2019, so you've just surpassed your 3-year mark, and that includes time through COVID, which isn't real time. So, like, how did that all go down for you, right? Because a lot of people don't usually make the jump from, like just starting out right at the cusp of COVID starting to, I'm going to become champ of a promotion that, by the way, congratulations to NEW with your new TV deal. That's a huge deal. So now you're like a TV champion in wrestling. So like, how did that transition actually happen?
Yeah, to start off, I debuted, my first show was about February 2020, and I had stars in my eyes, and the match went great, and I was so excited to get my journey started, and then the world shut down, and I had maybe one more match before that, and it derailed any momentum that I thought I was going to have. And honestly, I thought I was going to be having to start from square one, because Canada was locked up tight, as you know, and wrestling just wasn't happening. There was no training, there was no shows, there was no opportunities. So I was sitting there scratching my head for a good 6 months, like, oh God, I'm going to have to start from square one, and this is going to take forever, and not going to be where I was planning to be on in the next few years. luckily coming out of COVID, especially for Vancouver, because we went through such a transition in the scene with kind of who was on top and who was going to be running the helm promotion wise. And between WrestleCore and NEW, man, like the eyes that are starting to come to Vancouver now and the amount of matches that are coming through Vancouver now and the attention that wrestling and the PNW is getting overall between us, Defy, Prestige, man, like there's been some super shows lately. So the fact that I get to come into wrestling in basically my rookie year at such a high point in the territory has been fantastic to be a part of.
I guess you could say, like, with your growth curve, this really was a good time, despite what most people would have had you led you to believe because of COVID. But it really did work out for you because you got a lot of training in. You've gotten a lot of experience. You're the champion now. That's at a time where the PNW is starting to explode, like you've said. Which, I mean, and to be fair, and this is not like a shot at anybody, the especially the Canadian side of the Pacific Northwest has been in more of a lull over the last 10, 15 years. Alberta's in the same thing, right? But we've got a lot of different exciting new things happening. You've got WrestleCore and NEW, and you've got Glam Slam over there, and you got so much cool stuff happening in Vancouver. Like, I'm so glad I got to go for a show. I'm definitely coming out for another one. But yeah, what a time, right?
Yeah, it's a great time to be in the wrestling business. Everything's booming everywhere, and because of that, it's just, especially at the Lionsgate Dojo, it's gotten us so motivated to just push each other to see what we can do, and we're excited to start traveling and going anywhere that we can to show off all the hard work that we've been putting in. Canadian wrestlers are often slept on, as we all know, even in the international circuit. But man, with the attention that's starting to come out and some of the talent that's getting signed and some of the talent that's on the cusp of getting signed, and yeah, it's just a great time to be part of wrestling, and it's a great time for the fans to get behind all of us and see what we can all do.
Oh, 100%. So let's pull it back a little bit here because I can't wait to chat about the Lionsgate Dojo because some great people over there. I know you were coached by people like Tony Baroni and all that, and I had a great conversation with him, and he is a very fun character. I'm sure you guys have talked collecting, but let's go back still even a little bit further than that. Evan, how did you fall in love with wrestling? I always like learning that story from everybody.
Man, I think like most wrestlers, I've just been a lifelong fan for a long, long time. The thing that's just so blatantly stuck in my head that just got me hooked, that went and told all my friends about it the next day, was that Rey Mysterio Eddie Guerrero feud when it first started.
Oh, with Dominic and everything?
Yeah, I so remember that clearly. Like, I remember watching wrestling before that, but what just really got that fandom just screaming in my heart was, yeah, watching Ray get brainbustered on steps, and it was so clear as day in my brain watching him get stretchered off, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe what was happening in front of my eyes. So I think it was grade 3, grade 4 or something like that. And I went and ran and told all my friends about all of this stuff that was going on the night before. And since then, man, a little bit of a lull through high school as things got busy with life. And I thought I was going to be going to play football. But, after that, wrestling came right back to me because it was always there. And since then, man, it's been treating me lovely. So I can't exactly say it's,
I've never asked this question before, but since it was the feud that you started in wrestling, or not really started in, but that was one that really got you going, who do you believe is Dominic's true poppy?
Oh, well, Eddie would be the man, right? But
yeah,
I was always the Eddie Guerrero guy over Rey Mysterio. I love Rey's work. I loved everything about them, but man, Eddie just had that thing that was just like, I want to see this guy murder everybody. It's amazing. It's just so good to watch.
I was so,
and they were like, it's real to me, damn it, and still is real to me, damn it. But
when he passed away, I was so sad. I was like inconsolable for like 2 days because that was especially at the time where I really wasn't watching anymore. Like I had fallen into that lull, but like even during the invasion, the thing that saved it for me was Eddie Guerrero. So I was just like, as soon as I heard he passed away, I was like, he was like the best. I was so sad.
Yeah.
But so that's how it started for you. And then after that, you were just hooked. Like every week, you just got to watch wrestling. You got to figure out what's going on up until high school.
Watching every pay-per-view, watching all that, even into high school, as I was in martial arts and football was a lot of my time. So it started to get less and less, unfortunately, for those couple of years. The wrestling business kind of lulled at that point anyways. So I don't think I was missing a ton. But yeah, the love for it started coming back as soon as I graduated, and the fact that what got me started to actually pursue this was my wife, as a wedding present, got us tickets to go down to WrestleMania. And instead of going out for dinner the one night, I dragged her ass to NXT for TakeOver in New Orleans, and getting to see Malachi Black at that time, Aleister Black, win the title was live. That energy was like, I need to be part of this. I can't wait anymore, man.
So jealous of you. I always wanted to, especially during what I called like the prime time of NXT. I always wanted to go to a takeover, but I never got the chance. But
one of the hottest crowds I've ever seen and got to witness was the card was unreal, top to bottom, and just everyone was there the whole time. And there's nothing better about wrestling than when the crowd is just so invested and so behind the product and so behind the talent. It just makes everything it makes the masterwork and the masterpiece even better.
That's great. There's a great question here that came from the average pinner. Did martial arts give you an edge when you took on wrestling against others, other indie people? Do you feel like having that wrestling background or that martial arts background gave you that edge?
I think it definitely helped with footwork and timing and patience. Like martial arts, getting good takes patience. Getting the timing down and the repetitions in takes a lot of patience. It definitely helped with the athleticism for sure, but I had to train out a little bit of real fighting and learn how to do the techniques for wrestling. You know what I mean? You can't kick someone so quickly that no one sees it. It's not exciting, right? So you got to make things open up a little bit more and change that clean technique to a different style just so it registers better with everybody that's watching. So it definitely gave me an advantage, but it was definitely also at the same time an obstacle to get over, if you know what I mean.
Right, because you're like, I'm too fast for it. It must be kind of like how Malachi Black must feel to like actually have to like rein in his kicks. You know what I mean? It's like he was training for so long to do it one way.
It's refining something that's muscle memory to do it in a totally different way. And yeah, it showed its challenges, but I think it definitely has kind of influenced my style and my in-ring work. So I'm very appreciative of all that.
So you're in high school, you're a fan of football, martial arts, you're a big wrestling kid. So like what part of you wasn't cool in high school? Like what was your big, like what was like, come on, those are the three cool things back in the day.
Man, even though I did all those things, I still was just that nerdy kid, man. I'd rather be at home playing video games and just relaxing and doing my thing versus going out and doing the high school life. You know what I mean? I was a part of so many crowds. It was like, I was in chess club during lunch. I'd go to chess club and then go to football afterwards, kind of thing, right? So,
I love hearing this. A fan of chess. I find so few of them. I say this every time. I consider myself the best chess player in Alberta wrestling. And it's a title that I currently hold. So
for some reason, MRB pops into my mind that he would be wanting to challenge you on that, and I'm not even sure if he's ever played, but.
Well, so a chess person, you went to chess club. Like when you're talking, like what's your rating? People know what these are here if they know chess.
Not good enough to be rated.
Not good enough. No, fair enough.
I was something I enjoyed as a thing. I think I've got like 2-3 strategies that I still use when I play the odd time, but definitely was a casual when it came to that. I was lowest rated out of the chess club, but I liked everybody in there. So
I miss chess club. That was like, I mean, talk about like a lot of people will say what they want about like nerds in high school because like that was totally me because I was captain of the chess club because I was like, we need a chess club. Let's build one, everybody. Let's have some fun and play some chess. Yeah. But okay, so then when did this whole Pokemon card thing come? Because I can't ignore it anymore. There's clearly a lot of love of Pokemon.
That's fair. It definitely just started coming back in the last couple years. It was something that I think, like a lot of kids around our age, was just obsessed with as a child and had every card and watched all the shows and every movie that came out. You were the first in the seat. And then life gets busy, but then when you start getting to that point where you want to start doing things that make you happy again, you go back to the things that made you happy as a kid. So I was playing Sword and Shield, and then I started playing Legends Arceus. And after I got Legends Arceus, I was like, I started watching the clips and the openings and stuff on YouTube. I'm like, man, I can't hold on anymore. So I went and bought my first pack, and it's been an absolute nightmare on my bank account since. But
Oh, yeah, you know what? I was just about to ask this question, but Shout just asked it for me. After 25 years, how do you feel to know that Ash Ketchum is officially world champion?
Oh, dude, it almost brought a tear to my eye. It was the first thing I saw when I woke up the morning of when it was shown. I saw the picture from Japan with them streaming it on the big screens in the downtown, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, what a spoiler! I was frustrated as all hell about it, but still, it was kind of cool to see something that you've been following for a long time when you've been such a fan of it get to that point. That's
I
my nerd talk coming out and just enjoying it and being giddy like a school child. So
Everybody has their thing. Like, I always love learning about people's like their fandoms and all this kind of stuff, because like I was a huge fan of Pokemon as a kid. Like, I've got my own Pokemon cards, but like these are like first generations. These are the older ones. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the new ones. But like, I loved Pokemon. I actually felt ignorant to the fact when they're like Ash is finally world champion. My first thought was he wasn't world champion yet. Like, I thought he like, I felt horrible. I was like, I'm the worst Pokemon fan. But is it Pokemon that you love, or is it really like the cards that have become addicting to you?
I'm trying to just make it stay with Pokemon. I think it's the cards are starting to get to me a little bit in the chase and trying to get like a perfect grade and things like that. But I'm going to just try to stick to one. I've got enough obsessions that I have to worry about on a day-to-day basis. So let's just keep it at that for now.
What if you had to break your entire collection down to like a single card? What is your prize and joy in your collection?
Oh man, unfortunately, it's all I like a foolish child when Pokemon became not cool anymore. I think I ended up trading every card I had for like $20 and something else that was cool at the time as a kid. Because that's
Oh,
I
oh,
know.
oh,
I let
oh.
go of multiple. Just looking back, even money wise now, I'm like, oh my god, why would I do that? But just all the gems. I don't have my gems anymore. You said you have that binder of first editions from base set and all the old stuff. And man, I had all of those, but not anymore. So I'm building my collection from the ground up again. But definitely Dragonite's been the favorite. So I've just been trying to make it a goal of get a PSA 10 of every single Dragonite card to ever come out. So
Every single Dragonite card? Holy cow. Hold on a second. Let me see what I have available, because these are the old ones here, but I have a couple. Hold on. Okay, here's the one that I like. Here's the one that I was looking for specifically, because I have it. It's my Dragonite from the Pokemon movie card. And
Dragonite. Yeah, man, you're speaking my language. So
that's the one. I had to pull that one out there because I was like, I remember going to the theater when the movie came out, and like I was with my friends and his little brothers, and we were all like, we got to get our cards, and like we wanted to go multiple times so we could get everything. Yeah. Pokemon was literally a cult when I was a child. You know what I mean? It was amazing.
It was the thing that everyone talked about and did that, and then it went absolutely dark for about 6, 7 years, 8 years, and then it started coming back. But yeah, like I think that's like everything. Anyone that has a following and any of their interests, there's always a rise and a fall to popularity, but it's always there for you when you want to come back.
Oh, for sure. So, okay, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are coming out soon. Here's your plug, Nintendo. Please sponsor. Which one are you getting, Scarlet or Violet?
Man, I'm all about purple. I love the purple color. So when I saw Violet, and I was leaning towards that, but in some of the leaks that came out of some of the specific Pokemon on Scarlet, and I was like, ugh. I haven't made the pre-order yet, so I'm still humming and hawing about which one to pull the trigger on, but I'll figure it out day of.
I'm also just the biggest fan of purple as the color. It's like my favorite color as well. So, I mean, if my opinion means anything, just go with Violet, obviously. Like, just, represent, right? But okay, so you're a high school, you finished high school. What was your life thinking? And then how did that eventually lead to you saying, I'm going to go wrestle?
Coming out of high school, I was supposed to be playing football, and I actually unfortunately had a really major health scare that ended up ending my senior year, and I lost my scholarship out of all that. So I felt a little lost for a while, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just go to school because I was only going to school originally to play ball. And so it ended up taking a year off, and luckily I think that's what ended up getting me to a point where I could even wrestle. I was a pretty skinny kid coming out of high school, and I found bodybuilding and weightlifting and got obsessed with it for about a year, but it got me to the healthiest point I've been with. Having cystic fibrosis is really, really hard to be able to even put on weight or stay healthy. So the fact that I was able to get myself to a point where I could even contemplate pursuing wrestling, I definitely was kind of a blessing in disguise, because I don't think if I'd had that year, I would have been able to get to a point where I could have got my body healthy enough to start doing this. And so yeah, one door closes and one opens, and so far so good, I guess, right? So.
I mean, clearly things have gone pretty well for you since you started there. Now, you mentioned that you have cystic fibrosis. Now, obviously, when I heard that you had cystic fibrosis at the beginning, so I was at the time when I heard this, you're doing flips and all this kind of stuff, and my brain goes, really? Because does it, that really affects in things like your lungs and your ability to breathe, and like just like a whole whack of different things, right? So like, does it, obviously being in good shape probably helps, but like, is it a really big hindrance still to this day when you're wrestling?
Yeah, it can have its time. There's certain times, obviously, that like I feel like I'm pretty healthy, and I'm like, oh, I feel like Superman. I don't feel like I have anything. But then ignore it long enough, or pretend like you're fine long enough, it definitely opens your eyes real quick to what's still lying there, right? So I definitely find that at times it's hard to train. It's hard to get myself into the gym. It's hard to get the cardio up. It's hard to get the weight on, hard to hit the gym and build muscle and do all the things that you need to do in wrestling to make yourself better. So it's definitely, I have to find that balance of, I overtrain very easily because I'm stubborn and I like to go until I can't go anymore. But when I do that, I end up on the shelf longer than intended. So yeah, I need to make sure that I'm keeping a nice balance between keeping my health in check and pursuing wrestling and everything that it entails. So.
Well, you're clearly doing a great job, right? Like, you've obviously earned the trust of a lot of different people. You are champion after all. So a lot of people have clearly been like, he's doing what he needs to do. He's doing it the right thing. So you've been champion now. Obviously, it's been August, right? It was the August.
Yeah, we're coming up on about 3 months.
Crazy. I can't believe it's already been 3 months since I was in Vancouver. I really got to get back out there. I miss that place. Now, you've been started training, obviously, with the Lionsgate Dojo. Like, so how did you kind of get introduced with Lionsgate, and you're like, okay, that's it, I'm going to be a wrestler now? How did this happen?
When I got back from New Orleans, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And I was just so nervous to start. I ended up, unfortunately, waiting six more months after that until I finally pulled the trigger and started reaching out to people. And the person that actually ended up getting back to me was Eddie Osborne on the island for 365 PWA at the time. And he directed me to my trainers that I go with now. That was under a different banner before the dojo, the Lionsgate Dojo, but it's been my home ever since. So I've been incredibly grateful to the coaches at the dojo that have been able to mold me into the wrestler that I am today. They've given me a lot of opportunities and they push me to get better, and they definitely give me opportunities where I could shine, and they trusted me that I could handle what I could handle at the time. And it's definitely gotten me to the point where I feel confident that I can go to the East Coast and stand out on a show like C4. And normally I would be super nervous, and at the point I'm at, I should be worrying about even trying to get reps, let alone going out across the country trying to improve, show what I can do, or go down to the States and just try to get any sort of recognition, right? So I'm incredibly grateful to the 5 of them that have helped mold me into the wrestler that I am today.
Yeah, give a big shout out to the coaches. That's a great one. You want to give your shout out?
Yeah, Tony Baroni, you've had him on here before. We'd all know his very individualistic attitude. He's quite the character. Cap Howard, Billy Swade, Nicole Matthews, and Artemis Spencer. Just the 5 of them have helped build the scene up here so much. And I don't think you could find a single wrestler that is going at any sort of high level in the area without the 5 of them having hands on them at some point and being pivotal parts of their career. So.
Well, they've definitely ingrained themselves so much in like that Pacific Northwest. Like, I always say that, especially about different types of wrestlers within the Alberta scene, where they've left their mark for such a long time that they've become pivotal within the Alberta scene. So it's really great when you've got those type of people who are, working together and helping you learn and training and like teaching the next generation. Because like you said, those are some great names just to begin with, but a lot of them have great personalities as well. I assume that you and Tony have had collecting conversations, because if you want to talk about a collection, that guy's action figure collection is insane.
It's something. It's definitely something. Unfortunately, I've made myself, like I said, I've got a little bit of an addictive personality, so I'm trying to stay with cards. But every time I see him or Sebastian Wolf's collection, or like, oh my God, there's a couple people around here that are just major figure collectors, and I'm like, I can't go down that road.
Just be honest.
Everything that I know.
I have myself a little bit of an addictive personality because I've been collecting things like the hockey cards and stuff. But if we just look up slightly, you'll get my AEW action figure collection that's starting up there. So don't, because it will consume you. It'll consume you entirely. But now I have a couple of questions here, because like I'm always personally curious. You said like going through high school, you're like, I was too busy playing games. You didn't want to go out. Gamer, what kind of games did you play? What's your games?
Man, I've always been kind of drawn to just a lot of single player stuff. It's just, I enjoy the stories behind games a lot. Like I've always played like Halo or COD or any things like just group games, you know, local split screen on the couch with your buddies is a long lost thing, unfortunately, in modern gaming. But
the days of GoldenEye, unfortunately, are long gone. So sad.
Yeah, but yeah, man, it's too many countless hours to Diablo, just countless hours to Diablo and World of Warcraft and all those things, right? So yeah, I don't have as much time to go quite in depth with a lot of the games that I want to now, but when I find the time, I definitely still like to kick back and relax and be a homebody and just rip through a new game for a weekend if I can.
I like
that happens very often anymore, but
I'm also a big fan of like the individual, like the RPGs and stuff like that. I think like you, I don't know, I feel like we've had a lot of similarities in our childhood, because I've also been addicted to World of Warcraft through multiple stages of my life. I think that was I mean, I'm an original. I rated Molten Core and 40-mans back in the day. So, I miss those were fun days. I don't know did you ever do those kind of days?
Yeah, man, it was a lot of late nights and not doing homework and not doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing as a good student, right? But it's always a fun time to look back at. I think most people that were into gaming at that time all have the similar stories of, oh crap, it's 3 a.m. I should probably go to bed.
Blizzard will do that to you. It's like, it doesn't matter. You'll have like a genre that you like, Blizzard will get you, because I'm also a huge StarCraft guy, right? So like Blizzard, it's just like, well, there's WoW, Diablo, StarCraft, whatever I want, it's there for me. I'm good. But so let's talk a little bit more about wrestling. So like, what are some things that you'd still love to do with wrestling? Obviously you're a champion, but you've been only doing this for about 3 years, 2 years. It's weird with the timing. It's still kind of hard to determine that. But like, what are some of your goals in wrestling?
Man, I want to take wrestling as far as it'll take me. Wrestling's one of those things where unfortunately it doesn't owe you anything. You have to work your ass off to get these opportunities, and sometimes even if you work your ass off, you won't get them. It's a combination of hard work and luck and the right timing. But wrestling is one of those things that I want to support my family on. It's the only thing that I want to be doing. I want to wrestle absolutely everywhere against anybody, and with the aims of getting match of the night. I would love to get to the point where, like I said, NEW is getting to the point where we're going to be doing TV. That's going to be a crazy experience, but man, I'd be lying to say if I didn't want that WrestleMania moment.
I mean, hey, you know what? Getting on TV is a great way to kind of get there. Obviously, you were. Now, I also noticed this. You were an extra or background. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get this on a recent WWE film that came out. I watched part of this movie. Tell me a little bit about your experience, because obviously you're already got WWE credits under your belt. So I mean, you're already good.
that kind of fell into my lap. I don't know how. At the time, it was an offer. Reached out to the school and was like, hey, if anyone's interested in doing this extra work for this WWE film, what would you like to do? And you can submit your stuff. So I submitted my stuff and I didn't hear anything back. I got nothing. I was like, okay, I was completely expecting that. That's fine. And a couple of weeks go by and I get a message and like, oh, actually someone canceled. We'd love to use you. And I was like, oh, okay. I've never been on a TV set before. I've never gotten to do any of that extra work or wanted to pursue acting at any point in my time. But it was a cool experience, man. It was cool to see kind of the background of how the big times and that kind of level of a shoot works, and getting to talk with some of the people there a little bit, ask them a couple of questions when I was so new into this. I think training for like 3 or 4 months, and I didn't even have gear yet. Like I had like my training gear, and like they're like, oh, send pictures of what you'd wear. I had my entrance vest, and that was it. I didn't have any other gear yet, but I threw on, I think, Lululemon pants and just was like all black, so that I had something to show them. And yeah, it was kind of a fun experience. And I think if down the road, it's going to be one of those things that haunt me, because I'm Hastings heat, man. That fire cape and that long ginger hair was definitely, that's going to be something that I think is going to unfortunately come back at some point.
One day it'll come back. You'd be like, hey, did you know this guy over here? Now, a good question that came in from Shout to get a little bit clarity on what you were talking about for your WrestleMania moment. What would your WrestleMania moment be if you could choose?
Man, it's hard to say. I think because when you plan and picture these things in your dream about these things in your mind and what you'd like to do and who you'd like to wrestle, and it can shift so much, because as you start to get closer to that goal, you have a different way of thinking and you have a different plan, and everything changes so quickly. So I've always been like, oh, a dream opponent when I was growing up. I'm like, oh, I couldn't imagine being in the ring with like a John Cena, or like at the time Eddie Guerrero, or like guys like that, right? But I think with nowadays, it's just feeling that roar of the crowd, man. WrestleMania can have such amazing matches and such amazing moments, but I think it's creating that memory of going through the curtain. Sorry. Going through the curtain for the first time and having 80 to 100,000 people start screaming, and knowing there's so many people watching on TV, and feeling that adrenaline, that rush of that, all that hard work that I put in to go and put on to whatever special moment I'm going to make for myself, or make for someone in the audience that maybe wants to start being a wrestler themselves, or maybe wants to start making that push to chase whatever it is that they want to chase, just after seeing and feeling that energy. That's what I think I'm into most. It's just getting that moment to just soak in all that hard work that paid off. So whether it's across the ring from some of the greats at the time, or some of the up and coming greats, honestly, my dream match is currently with anyone who's wrestling would be Malachi Black, which I almost ended up working in a funny enough story early, but that's a totally different thing. But yeah, just getting to be on that stage and just know that all the hard work and all the sacrifice that you'd put in to get to that moment is recognized. That's definitely plucks at their heartstrings a little bit.
All right. Well, I got a quick question here for you. So you were talking about like the rush that you would get walking out into a crowd of 80 to 100,000 people. You got like so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people watching from home, but at the same time, not everybody gets that moment. You walk out into a crowd like at a bingo hall in front of like 15 people. Do you still get that rush? Obviously, like it's like you got to start somewhere with these kind of things.
Man, I get a rush in front of 5. I get a rush in front of 50. I get a rush in front of 500. It's when your music plays that, and you get to step into those shoes or boots of your choice, to the music that you picked, to the character that you've created, to do things in the ring that you've worked your ass off for to train how to do. There's nothing like it, man. That's the adrenaline rush that I get as soon as bursting through that curtain. It doesn't matter if there's 10 people in the crowd or 10,000. I'm going to put on the same exact show to make sure that everybody in attendance is happy, because we do what we do. I think some people probably do it selfishly, completely just for them, and that's up to them. That's what motivates them to do what we do. I do this because wrestling was such a gift to me as a kid who was sick in the hospital a lot of the time, and always dreamed about becoming the superheroes that I saw on TV. And if I even get to do that at a live show with 10 people, and that one kid reaches out and I give a high five and they remember that for the rest of their life, man, that's why I do this. I want to give back to the thing that is just giving me so much over the years.
I love that as an answer, right? Like, because you're like, it's not a selfish thing. It's like, I want to give back into something that gave me so much throughout my entire life. And I got to say, first up, you were talking about, your entrance music hitting. First up, great entrance music. I got to use it, thankfully, in a lot of the social media promotions for this. And I just loved listening to it. I was like, this song is a banger. And also, your entrance is awesome, too. Can you talk to me a little bit about this mask that you wear? Because what a mask. Cool.
Thank you. It definitely goes with the character. Having cystic fibrosis, it's something that I wanted to almost incorporate a respirator into. A lot of people with cystic fibrosis, as they start to age, or even from a young age, are constantly on oxygen. They'll be hooked up to a high flow, low flow, medium flow, whatever amount of oxygen, whether it be nose cannulas or a mask or things like that. And it's representative of another way of how I carry that with me through wrestling. I want to show that people with cystic fibrosis can do anything that they put their mind to, especially with the things that are coming out in modern medicine to help us have a better quality of life. It's definitely opened up doors that a lot of us, especially people my age, when we were younger, were told, hey, look, you're not probably going to get a lot of opportunities. And now that I'm starting to get to do things where I'm wrestling on TV across Canada as the Nation Extreme Wrestling Champion, I'm putting on matches across Canada, and I'm going down south of the border, and I've done charity events with other cystic fibrosis foundations down in the States. And this wasn't an option for me growing up. This wasn't supposed to be a thing, but now that I can get to this point and kind of give back and represent where I come from and the daily struggles that so many thousands of people deal with, I definitely carry that with pride.
Man, I could just probably listen to you chat about that for like so long, honestly. Like, I feel like I just kind of get lost in your story because you talk about it with such passion, obviously, right? You talk about your history, obviously, that you've had with cystic fibrosis, what it means to you, doing all this different charity work and be like, this wasn't supposed to be something that I could do, right? But now here you are. You are the NEW champion. You're going to be a TV champion here very soon, as NEW is starting their TV deal. You're training really hard. You're in great shape. A lot of people love you. Would you say this is probably just like a great time? Would you just like?
Yeah, man, it's as hard as I'm my own worst critic. And as much as after every match or after every moment or I missed maybe a weekend with no bookings or things like that, I'm so hard on myself. But I need to remember to take a step back and just enjoy everything around me, enjoy what I've been able to build, enjoy what has been given to me and the opportunities that are presented to me. Because that's why I'm doing this, man. It's the ride. It's the memories that I get to make for myself and for the people in the crowd. That's what this is about. So I'm so constantly, I recently heard a TikTok and it said someone was comparing themselves to a speedboat in life. They're trying to speed on to the next thing. I wanted to be champion. Now I need to get to TV. Now I need to get to the WWE or get to where I want to wrestle full time. And there's other people that are like a sailboat and they just enjoy the ride in between each destination. And that's something that I want to definitely try to live my life a little bit more like. I get so goal obsessed, but I need to remember that, man, the hard work's the fun part.
Well, as a person who has kind of that addictive personality, it is hard for us to do because like you get that high, you want to hit that high again, right? So it's like sometimes it's hard for people like us to slow down and be like, hey, yo, look how cool the thing I've made is. You know what I mean? Because you look at something like this and you'll be like, I need my next card. I'm missing this, right? But really, when you open it up at the end of the day and you're like, look how cool my collection has become. You know what I mean? Same thing with anything in life. I'm the worst for it too. So you talked about, you've got your dream match. You would love to face Malachi Black. That would love to be your like WrestleMania moment. What about some other wrestlers around Canada? Is there people that you haven't had a chance to have a match against that you would love to have go up against, or somebody out east maybe? Or
there's so much talent across the board in Canada, man, that people have maybe never heard of or that are starting to get the platform that they should have had a long time ago. I've locked horns with some of Alberta's best. I locked horns with Harlan Abbott's, and I've locked horns with MRB. And I've wanted so long. I got to wrestle a little bit, but like guys like Mark Wheeler and Jesse V out east, I've got to do a tag match with them, but working in singles. would be fantastic. Guys like Von Vertigo, who's just killing it for putting Eastern Canada on his back. The guy's out doing tours, seems like almost every 2-3 months, to Britain, to everywhere around Europe, it seems like by now. And he comes back and just shows all that hard work that he's put in, and he's so talented and able to do basically anything in the ring. Got amazing talent like guys like Gabriel Fuerza. There's just the list goes on, man. There's just so many people that Canadian wrestling has to offer that matchups are endless. Because once you get a taste, maybe you work a multi-man or a tag team match. Like God, I had a triple threat match out in C4 with, and one of the guys in it was James Stone, and he's been going for quite a few years, and the man is talented and has that experience. But it was fun to wrestle him in a triple threat. But man, I would love to work him one-on-one.
Would you say that's your favorite type of match? Like, cause everybody's got something that they prefer. Some people like tag, you know, that kind of stuff. Are you like, I'm a singles guy. I love my singles matches. They're what give me my hype.
It's hard to say because I like a lot of different match types. I haven't gotten the opportunity to work a lot of tag. I really appreciate tag team wrestling because it's just such a different animal. But it's not career-wise. I don't get a lot of opportunity to do it. So I have to focus on what's given to me at the time, a lot of the time, right? So it's multi-mans are always fun. They're chaotic at times, but when you have so many personalities trying to put together magic, sometimes it can be a little all over the place, but it always ends up in the right direction and the right point at the end of the match. But singles, for me, it's just, there's something about taking one style of an individual and pairing it up with another and watching what magic can happen, right? Like you get so many different opportunities to work all these amazing talents, and like every match is different. It was like recently saw the comment pop up of me and Davey Richards was a technical battle, and we just went to war with that and was hard hitting. And then right away I had to wrestle Eli Surge, and that was a totally different match and against a different opponent with a different set of skills and abilities to tell stories. So it's to go from wrestling guys like that, or doing a multi-man or a tag match against a blow-up doll, or doing all these different fun situations, right? But to me, definitely telling stories one-on-one is always something that I really take pride in.
So obviously it's always really hard whenever I ask this question to wrestler for somebody to pick, like, you know, their favorite match or like who their favorite opponent was. I think that's kind of like a hard question. But what match would you say that you walked out of the match and you went, that was my match. Like, I killed it. Like, that was like, I performed at my best. I felt like I gave it all. I didn't leave anything on the table. Do you know what I mean?
Unfortunately, even though I was a little banged up and couldn't go as hard as I wanted to, but man, me and G Sharp at WrestleCore, he brought out a level that I don't think I knew I had. Like, I knew I was working to a point where I could start to hold my own with a lot of people and start to be able to plan matches better and things like that. But man, when I got to wrestle with him, we put in, it wasn't even a long match. It was like 8 minutes bell to bell. And it just felt so good. Like, I walked out of that, even though I was banged up and couldn't move the way I wanted to. I was like, man, I couldn't have done anything better at that point. That was just, everything flowed. The match came together well. The crowd ate it up. It definitely elevated me to a point where I think that I'm at now. It was definitely what unlocked that key for me to be able to start pushing and doing all these things that I'm doing now. And he's on an amazing tear right now. He's been doing New Japan Strong and Impact, and he's tearing it up on the indies, and he's everywhere right now. So definitely a man that I would love to lock horns with again down the road to see how much better we've both gotten.
How long ago was that match that you had with him?
Oh God, it's like June, July, something like that. Maybe even August. It all summer blended all together for me. There was so much going on, but yeah, not too long ago. Only about, I'd say, 3-4 months.
It's crazy how fast people feel like they can evolve and stuff like that, right? Because when you're wrestling, you know, twice a week or, you know, every other week or something like that, right? You really get those repetitions in. there's like a comfortability there where you start going like, hey, I can do this. This used to be pretty hard for me, but now I think I kind of got this. I can try to incorporate something new. And that happens at such a fast speed for wrestlers, especially people who are incredibly committed. Do you find that like every show you're like, that was a learning opportunity. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply this moving forward?
Every single match. There's always, it doesn't matter what level of talent you're working or like exposure wise or things like that, or talent wise, or it's every single match that you step through those ropes and that bell rings, there's something to learn from that match, man. You can get better, you can improve, you can work on something, you can find a hole in your game, you can learn how to work with different individuals, move sets and styles. And yeah, I feel like if you're not learning something about either yourself or how to work with others through a match, you weren't paying enough attention. And I will be champion enough. I will never phone it in. I'm never going to go out there and go, I'm just going to hit the hits and call it a day. Like, I'm going out there to put on the best quality match I can with the individual that I'm in there with. And we're going to definitely learn from every situation. So, and my Rhinestone Cowboy's watching now. I'm all blushy. So,
oh yeah, good old Stephen Crow in chat. Much love to him. Hey Stephen, how you doing? Yeah, I love just sorry, I was just gonna say about this. I just love the Alberta scene. They're such nice people here, and they're always so supportive. So much love to all of them. Now, I have a question for you and I think this comes with a lot of introspection, but I feel like you're quite an introspective person, which is really good because a lot of people have a hard time looking at what they're doing and then trying to find ways to improve. What would you say is the hardest aspect for you as a person to overcome to become a good wrestler? Right? Is it an attitude thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it like you can't move to the left well? Like, what is your hardest obstacle?
For me, I'd honestly say personality. I bring a lot of intensity naturally to my style, and that's one thing. It's great to be really good at one thing. It can take you a long way, but the things that I love about wrestling at a glam slam or wrestling at, like, I just was down at SOS and doing these themed or gimmick matches, like, being a good comedy wrestler is difficult. You need to have amazing timing and positioning and ring work and an understanding of psychology. But being able to kind of play these characters or be put in these situations kind of always will bring out a new part of you. And that was also that, like, for me, that was one of my biggest growing moments was WrestleCore. I got thrown the challenge if I had to wrestle the Japanese legend Yoshihiko. And man, when I'm telling you there that I got told that, my everything inside me sunk to as low as possibly could, because I was like, I don't know if I can pull this off, because it takes a certain amount of commitments and a certain amount of understanding of how to perform, right? And I've never been one to really struggle with moves or techniques. That stuff comes to me fairly easily, but it's getting that other than intensity, that personality out of me. And I definitely like to think that that's starting to happen. And having that match variety has really allowed me to be more rounded as a performer.
On the other side of that, where you get a match where you're like, it sinks in your stomach and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Who is your opponent when you hear that? You're like, it's going to be so easy. We think the exact, we don't even have to speak and we can put on a great match. Who would you say is like your soulmate of wrestling?
I don't think I've been going on long enough to have a true soulmate in wrestling, unfortunately. But there's guys like, I've gotten to step in the ring one time with like Adam Ryder, and he's so good at everything that he does in wrestling. It just comes together so easily, and the ideas are so easy to work with, and they're always there. I've worked Harlan Abbott multiple times, and we've went to war. We've done every style of match that I think you could think of when it comes to intensity or pacing or 40-minute Broadway or a sprint match or an injury or things like that. Like, the planning's always come together really well for that. But then also locally for me, it's definitely, I'd say probably Travis. Travis Williams he thinks the same, we move the same, things kind of come together very easily. And I've yet to have, other than a training match, I've yet to have that big singles match with Travis. So I think I took something from him, and I think he definitely wants it back. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to step in that ring and go one-on-one and seeing what we can do.
This beautiful little golden thing to behind you here. That's I mean, I think everybody would probably love to see that kind of a rematch happening. I mean, when we think of Vancouver wrestling, especially, and I can kind of give this perspective from like Alberta's side, right? Because like there's a lot of amazing talent that comes out of Vancouver, especially as someone that I got to learn about a whole bunch of different wrestlers and see where things stick out. Names like an Evan Rivers and a Travis Williams one-on-one are one of those names where you would see on a marquee and you'd be like, that is a show I want to go to. Like, so I think that'd be fantastic. Let's do a couple of like lightning round questions because we've been going almost an hour here, and we'll wrap it up here pretty soon. But some quick questions. Oh, I like this. What are some of your dreams for the future in say the next 5 years, outside of your WrestleMania moment?
Outside of that, I definitely want to wrestle in Japan. That hard-hitting style is just something that I've studied so much since I've gotten into wrestling, and the crowds treat it in such a professional manner that it's just definitely something I want to experience for that. More shows out east, wrestle everyone I can, but ideally 5 years I can dream big, and who knows, maybe I'm signed by then. But the hard work will continue for the time being. But I've always been a big dreamer, so I'm gonna just keep putting in the work, but I'm gonna try to enjoy the ride on the way.
I think that's a great question. A question in here from Mihail Steven. Who's your favorite female wrestler? That's a great question.
Locally, or
he wasn't very specific.
Got to be more specific. Oh, when are you gonna? I'm not. Oof.
That's another.
I'm not joining the clandestine anytime soon. Even though I love you, you know that. Favorite female wrestler going right now, honestly, Bianca Belair.
Good choice.
I was watching when she popped up in NXT originally, and so many people were like, I don't get it. She's so new, doesn't do this. She's not a wrestler. And just like the IWS, just blah, 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 blah.
That's what they do. They talk
nonstop. And first match I saw, I'm like, give her 3 years. She's going to be one of the top people on the planet. And lo and behold, she is. She's dynamite on the mic. She can go in the ring. She's athletic as all hell. She's got a great look. She's got a great personality. She does great things outside of wrestling. You can't go wrong with someone like that, man.
I love that as an option because like I was watching NXT when Bianca debuted as well. And my first thought was like, her hair is crazy. I love this hair. Right. And then getting to see her actually wrestle. And the first time I actually saw her use the hair with the beat at the end to make that whip sound, I was like, oh, I'm totally sold now. She sold me. And then I found out that she was actually with Montez Ford, who I also think is like a super amazing wrestler, like amazing talent. I'm like, what a power couple, really.
He could be the head of any company.
I said the same thing when he was in NXT. I was like,
probably the freakiest athlete I've ever seen. One of them. Like, he's not the flippiest, but man, he's the freakiest athlete. No one jumps higher than him.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, I don't know anybody who could jump higher than this guy. Like from a standing position, he just hops rings.
And he's got personality that just oozes out the entire arena. So
it's one of those people where you're just like, the charisma comes so naturally out of some people where you're like, even if they're doing nothing but standing there in the background, you look at them because they're doing something. And even if it's like the littlest thing, they do it with such charisma. Now here's another fun question for you, because you said you were a gamer. Favorite wrestling video game?
Wrestling video game? Ooh.
There's a lot of controversy around this one.
There is, and I'm probably going to get controversy for it. But I'd say if we're going a little bit more modern, SmackDown versus Raw with ECW, I think that was the 2008.
I was going to say that's so modern. It's 14 years ago.
but no, what Paul said, WrestleMania 2000. I am a WrestleMania 2000 over No Mercy every single day.
Thank God.
Time. I went to a gaming bar with my wife while we were on vacation over in Europe, and we went to a little gaming bar, and it had a bunch of N64s and all the old school consoles logged up with everything you could play. And I instantly, WrestleMania 2000. It wasn't even a question. It wasn't even a question. It's way better than No Mercy. And
I'm with you on this. I'm always on the minority when I seem to come with these things because I'm the guy who's like, WrestleMania 2000 is better than No Mercy. You're wrong, and Mega Man 3 is better than Mega Man 2, and people are always like, "What?" I'm just like, it's true. A lot of hot takes here, but that's great to hear because I agree. WrestleMania 2000 by far best wrestling game, still in my opinion. I love pulling it on and playing with it. Here's a fun question from JJ. Do you have a lucky item with that you wear with your gear? Like, is there a piece there that means something special, or you're like you can't wrestle without it?
I wouldn't say there's a lucky item that I have, but I definitely have my ritual beforehand. I do often, I'll write the initials of someone that I lost, unfortunately, recently underneath my wrist tape. And that's, I think, probably, it's not an item, but it's definitely something that I do quite often, and I'm happy to do it. So, yeah. So
hey, I think that totally counts.
Item, but it's definitely a bit of part of my ritual.
No, I think that totally counts, right? Because it's like something, and like when you come to choosing your entrance gear, like I'm actually kind of curious because like your gear is really freaking awesome. Like, what's your giant inspiration behind that? Because like, the first time I saw you, you came out in darkness with the lights and everything. First, I thought Sub-Zero until the lights came on. I'm like, okay, it's not Sub-Zero, but like, what exactly is your inspiration?
I've just always been a fan of bright, shiny objects, whether it be Pokemon cards or jewelry or things of that nature. When I first started coming up with the Northern Star gimmick, I was picturing like, oh, I want my vest to look like space. I was like, oh, what am I going to find? So I had a fiber optic vest for a little while, and that served me for a while until unfortunately it started breaking pretty quick. Me landing and rolling on it is not good for technology. But I started getting to that point where I'm like, I need this to be bigger. I need this to shine as bright as I want it to shine. So the design luckily came into, by luck, I found the one company that was making this type of material and these type of outfits for raving parties and all these other things. And I was like, there we go. Bright. Let's make it real bright. So I sent them the design, and luckily they knocked it out of the park. So
what I gotta ask, obviously, big investment, or were you like they were good? Like, you don't have to call the price, but like,
investment's an investment. You got investors. You got to invest in yourself in this business.
I agree with that. Like,
it's come such a long way. Like, you talk to some of the people that have been around a little longer, and it was like, oh my god, like if you had professional looking gear, automatically by proxy, whether you were good or not, scouts were like, oh, what's this guy going to be? Indies have come such a long way now. It's like having professional looking gear is part of it. If you don't have professional looking gear, you're not going to, doesn't matter what you're doing in the ring, you look like a slob, dude.
Your package and your presentation matters. It
so
matters.
You got to invest in yourself. You got to make sure that you can look your best.
And hey, I got to say, it obviously worked out in your case because it looks great. Ooh, here's a good one. What are your thoughts on the extremely uplifting, inspiring movie Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler?
I'm going to be really selfish and say, unfortunately, I haven't seen it, and I'm going to catch a lot of heat for that.
I think you'll catch a little bit more heat for not having seen Ready to Rumble. I outed you. I'm sorry. I did it.
Unfortunately, as much as I've seen a lot of movies, I will say I'm not the first person to be the big movie buff. I'm one of those people that I remember like bits and parts of movies, but I'm just like, I'm never one of those ones that like I have to sit down and watch it 1,000 times, or I'm like, oh, have you seen this? And so I know I'm sorry, Stephen, I'm breaking your heart here, and I'm probably breaking a couple other people's hearts on that. But
there we go. We'll change the question up. What are your thoughts on Russell Madness and John Morrison jobbing to a dog?
Hey man, storytelling. We saw Psycho Mike. It broke Twitter for a little bit. Psycho Mike jobbed out to the dog, and it was one of the most entertaining matches of the month at that point. So that got more eyes on it than I think anybody had in Canadian wrestling that month. So if the dog's going over clean, unfortunately, you got to job out sometimes.
Hey, you do the job, you tell the story, you make yourself an asset. That's
exactly. You put that dog over, and then you reward it.
I don't know why, but I was just reminded suddenly of Billy Madison. You go out there and you put over that fucking dog. Sorry, I had to do that. All right. Final question here from JJ. I think this will be a kind of a fun one to end with. What was your first meal after a match? Like, let's say you had a hard hitting match. What do you go to eat?
Oh man, I'm a bit of a carb nut, unfortunately. So I chase down the sweetest, sugariest thing I can find, and then usually, unfortunately, down that with about 2 liters of milk. So my stomach is not feeling the best. To go from basically making sure that I'm as leaned out as possible for a show and starving and looking at everybody eat sweets or go out for lunch or dinner before a show. I'm just not that type of person. I think usually my nerves are a little bit on edge and I don't like to eat anyways. But afterwards, I'll first restaurant I find that's got just the greasiest, dirtiest thing I can find. So,
but with milk, that's the key there.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big milk guy as well.
Like I'm a weird fanatic about that, and that was something that I've always been. I was a picky eater as a kid, and having CF, I had a hard time putting on weight. So my mom force-fed me milk because it was just easy. I liked it. That's what we went with, and it unfortunately stuck. So I have the palate of a toddler, unfortunately, when it comes to that. But because
fries, nuggets, and milk, we got this.
And I do the gallon of milk thing a day. That was how I started actually helping build muscle and getting bigger. And unfortunately, that stuck. So I still think I go through about 4 liters a day because I'm an insane person. But
finally, someone who drinks as much milk as I do. I'm the kind of guy who I could literally just sit and chug milk like nonstop, and not chocolate milk, not strawberry milk, not vanilla milk, white milk. I was a 2% guy for a long time, but I switched to 1% just because I kept growing. And so, but like to this day, chug back 1% milk like it's candy. But anyways, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me here, Evan. This was a really fun interview. Obviously, we went about an hour here. But before we do go, get your plugs in there. What do you want to who do you want to give your love out to? Who do you want to shout out?
Lionsgate Dojo, if you're in the Vancouver area or hell, anywhere in Canada, you're not going to find a better place to train than there. So hit up their socials, hit up their websites at Lionsgate Dojo. You can follow my socials. It's Evan_Rivers_ on Twitter and Instagram. I do have Facebook, but I'm so very rarely on it. So my Instagram takes care of that for me. You can only balance so many socials. Just keep supporting independent wrestling, man, because anybody that is a fan of wrestling and watches the big leagues, I think will always find enjoyment in their local shows. And be on the lookout for companies like WrestleCore and NEW and see what we're going to be doing in the new year. Because man, there's going to be some things coming that I don't think people are ready for, but I'm excited for the journey.
I cannot wait. I am going to book out the first flight I can in the new year to Vancouver when things start getting filmed up, because I want to be there. I want to be a part of this because, what an experience to be able to be a part of something like that. But thank you once again so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate you joining us here for season 3, being our season opener. Obviously the NEW champion, Evan Rivers. We got any parting wisdom, anything you'd like to say before we let you go for here for the day?
Enjoy the ride, man. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, as corny as that sounds, but don't be a speedboat, be a sailboat.
There you go. Unless you're Mike Bailey, and then you could be a speedball.
He can do whatever he wants, man. He's killing it. So.
Perfect, Evan. All right. Well, maybe if you'd like to hang out with me for the next little announcement, our guest for next week, we will be interviewing one Mr. Ferguson.
That's why you put me on here?
What? No, he just happens to be a part. I mean, you beat him at the last time I saw him in a match. There you
go. Yeah, Mr. Ferguson.
Mr. Ferguson.
You gotta love to hate the man.
Oh, for sure. He's going to be a great little chat. I'm really excited for that. But and I'll be honest, when I went out to NEW, once again, it was one of the names that I was just learning about. And in the match that you had, unfortunately, he destroyed a lot of your teammates and did a really good job of it. So
he's one of the most underrated workers in the area, man. One of the best storytellers, I think, going. And every time he gets an opportunity to show that, he blows it out of the park. So.
Do you have a question for Mr. Ferguson that you would like me to ask next week?
Well, I can't just put me on the spot.
That's what I do. That's why we're at the end.
Well,
actually, I got a question for you then.
Okay.
Is he legitimately a super giant when you're in the ring against him? Because when you look at him from a distance, the guy looks like he's at least like 17 feet tall. right? He looks like a giant.
Ferg's got some size to him, my man. He moves well for a bigger guy. So
there you go.
But he's, yeah, I'd like to say a gentle giant at times, but sometimes he's not. So, you know.
I've seen him be a little ungentle at times. So. All right, Evan, thank you so much for joining me. You have yourself a wonderful day. I will put you back off to the side and you can disconnect if you'd like. But thank you so much for joining me, buddy.
Appreciate it so much, man. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us here today for the WrestleSode Season 3 premiere, which it's just crazy for me to think of. I'm going to put myself there so you can see the name a little bit better there. We've been doing this now since 2017. It is 2022, and we're coming to the end of 2022. Over the course of all these years, WrestleSode has changed from being a show where I would just kind of do like lists of things that I liked. It would go into a show where I would review different things that were happening around Alberta, and eventually moved into this interview kind of show in towards the middle of the second season, or towards the end of the first season. It's been an amazing growing and learning experience to be able to provide all these different types of content to all of you, to be able to upgrade and move into new things like this double streaming both on YouTube and on Twitch to make things a little bit easier. The Canadian Wrestling Archive and Shout Out to Cloud and all that has been amazing to me to help try to build this and get a lot of really cool stuff going, make sure that we're staying on schedule and moderating and providing art. They've been so nice, and I legitimately can't thank the Canadian Wrestling Archive enough. So thank you. Everybody, if you haven't yet, remember to go follow the Canadian Wrestling Archive on YouTube. You guys can go there. And don't forget, you can follow me here on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/JupiterVision. We do have a TikTok now as well, where we are uploading clips every other day or so. We've got a lot of really cool content coming for this season. So I hope you're all going to enjoy it. And I hope you all have yourself an absolutely wonderful night. We're going to be ending up here in just a moment. But before we do, I would like to give one more shout out to Backbreaker Media and Mike the Ref, who tomorrow is going to be doing a charity stream over at twitch.tv/Mike the Ref. So make sure you go ahead and give him a follow as well. Join him tomorrow and just enjoy some of the content that he's going to be putting on, because I'll be there whenever I can. And you know what? I love all of you. So thank you all for joining me here today. I'm going to go. I'm going to put on this little video thing that kind of counts me out, and I'm going to feel good about that. But before I do that, I'm going to play that video one more time that I made because I just loved it. So let's watch it one more time. I love that. Anyways, have yourself a wonderful night, everybody, and we'll talk with you next Tuesday while we interview Mr. Ferguson at 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. All right, bye-bye.